Hiya guys, welcome to another podcast. I've done quite a few this last couple of weeks. Today we've got a little bit of a sort of touchy subject really, but I think it's something that we all have to have a look at, particularly like in a group like ours where there's an awful lot of men and girls that are a little bit older perhaps than the average sort of age that we would get in some of the footballing groups. Although I don't know, perhaps all the groups are full of really old people like us. I'm not sure. So I've got with me today, I've got Joe Schoonen, who Joe is actually she's a client of mine in Spain. We do some training together and stuff. And Joe owns a bar in Spain. And say hello, Joe.
Hi, everybody.
See, there she is. There's Joe. She's like me, right? We both live in Spain, but we don't have tans, do we?
No,
Because
don't like
people
the
that live
sun.
in Spain don't, somebody do they?
Don't
Because we're working, aren't
like it
we?
at all.
We work.
Yeah.
People think we're on holiday, we're not. And with us as well, we've got Chris Farr. Chris, uh, we know from the group. Chris, how long have you been on the group, Chris?
Uh, oh, a few months now, Steve. I can't remember exactly when I joined, but a few months.
One of the early ones then,
Yeah.
because we've only been going since July the 30th.
It wasn't long after July, anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So Chris is going to sort of have a chat with us about his issues today, and we've also got with us today the lovely Beck.
Hello again.
Here she is. Look, you don't see her very often. Silent assassin, popping to just sit at the back and just now and again put me in order, perhaps, or move me along or whatever, muzzle me like she does in the group sometimes. All right, and so we're going to talk about breast cancer and prostate cancer, and but both Joe and Chris have experienced these things. So first thing I want to speak about, Joe, is what were your symptoms, Joe? I mean, how did it all come to light?
I had no symptoms. I got a letter through the post from the hospital just for a random mammogram, and because I missed the appointment, I was just going to leave it. And I rang the hospital and I just said, missed my appointment. And they said, okay, do you want to come in next week? Went in next week. As she's doing the mammogram, asking me all these questions. Have you noticed any changes? Have you felt any lumps? Anything different? Any colours? I'm just like, no, no. And at the time, I didn't think it was strange because I've had mammograms before. And yeah, it's just, you never think it's going to happen that they're going to find a lump. And then a few days later, they sent me a message saying go for an ultrasound scan.
And that
And
was
then,
the first that you sort of knew.
yeah,
How
yeah,
did you feel
because
when you got that message? Were you scared?
I was, but then I was thinking, no, maybe it's just a cyst. Because I haven't felt anything. I always check in the shower or just either laying down on the bed, the arm up, checking everything, nothing.
So I
And
remember, I think we spoke about that when you got that message, didn't we? Around that time.
yeah, and
Yeah.
you just don't think, like, part of you's thinking, hang on, is something wrong? And then the other half is like, well, no, it can't be because I haven't felt anything. There's nothing different. It doesn't look different. And then when I went for the ultrasound, I just asked the nurse, have they found something? She said, yeah. And then obviously I seen it on the screen that it was there.
So how about you, Chris? I mean, how did it happen for you? You know, did you have symptoms?
I had no symptoms whatsoever. And the only reason that I found out was that my brother was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And he phoned me up and told me, obviously, that, he'd been diagnosed and he was going to have his prostate removed. But the one thing that his consultant had said to him was, if you've got any close male relatives, so sons, brothers, nephews, tell them to go and get checked.
Mm.
So he phoned me to say, go and get yourself checked. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. but us blokes don't go to the doctors very often, do we?
No.
But I did go to the doctor, and I asked if I could have a test. The doctor asked me why. I told him. So he did the blood test, and I went back for the results, and my PSA level was at 6.3, which wasn't deemed high. But because of the family history, the doctor said, well, I'll send you to see a urologist. So I had an appointment come through very quickly to go and see a urologist at the local hospital. We had a chat. He then did an examination. I think somebody described it on the group as the finger test. Which
and you know something, Chris. I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry to butt in there, but I think that's something that scares blokes. That finger test, you know.
It's
nothing.
It's more embarrassment. It's more embarrassment than anything else, Steve. I think because it's not painful. It takes seconds, really. So I had that, and the urologist said that he didn't feel anything abnormal because the prostate can swell as well, which can give problems. But he said it's nothing to worry about. But he wanted to do another blood test, which he did, and the results of that came back, and my PSA levels within a fortnight had risen to 7.1. And at that point, he said, I think that you need to go and have some biopsies taken.
Well, why did it go up like
that? That's how it happens, Steve. It can rise gradually or quite rapidly over a period of time.
So you were lucky, really, weren't you?
I was very lucky. If it hadn't been for that phone call, I probably wouldn't be speaking to you today.
Yeah.
So I had the biopsies, and then the biopsies came back, and they found that I'd got a rather aggressive cancer on my prostate, and it had gone to the edges of the prostate, and they were concerned that it might have spread a bit further.
So with that, Beck, I was just going to ask you: do you have tests? Do you have checks?
Me, no, I don't fall in the category at the moment because I'm young, I suppose I could say. I think from what I read, they tend to check women from 40 years and over now.
Yeah.
I don't think they're checking women in their 30s, or not that I'm aware of anyway.
I think the other thing as well is the family history thing, isn't it? Because I know for women with breast cancer that it's a big thing, but you know for blokes, I didn't realise that until I spoke to someone else. I wasn't being rude there when I was turned away. I was trying to find something that a friend of mine, he's on the group, Pete Bevins, had sent to us, and I'll read it a little bit later because he's sort of told he couldn't make it today, but he's written down what you know and told us about his experience, and also you know we know someone, don't we, Beck, whose mom recently unfortunately died through breast cancer. Well, quite incredibly, and mum had a mastectomy. And incredibly, her dad had also had breast cancer, and he'd also had a mastectomy. And you don't hear of that, do you?
No, I've never heard of that before. Not, yeah, it's really.
Yeah. It's just it's quite frightening actually when you hear these things. So Joe, when you know when did they actually tell you that it was so that you went for a biopsy? I remember that.
Yeah, when I went for the first ultrasound, because obviously they'd seen the shadow, they said, right, okay, we're going to give you a biopsy, and I'm just like, oh, okay then, when? And they were like, today, and I was like, yeah, but what time? Because, you know, I've got other things to do. And they were like, now. And I was like, oh, okay. So they'd done the biopsy, then they'd done another mammogram straight away. And then within like a week, they were saying, right, you need to come for an MRI scan. And after the MRI scan, I was saying to the guy, listen, you know, I know you probably can't tell me, but can you just tell me a little bit, because obviously I'm in lumberland here. No one's telling me anything. And he said, "Oh no, the surgeon, like the consultant, needs to have all the x-rays back and scans back and whatever." And then it was only when I got another message to say go for an ultrasound on my lymph nodes, and then I was really like, then now I know there's something. And it was the same nurse who'd done my first ultrasound, and she just said to me, "Do you know the result of your biopsy?" And I said, "No, because nobody's telling me anything." And she said, "Well, I done your biopsy, didn't I? Would you like me to explain?" And I said, "Yes, please." And she told me, and I was upset, because it's like, oh, now this is it. But then part of me was like, now I know deep down it's what I really knew anyway.
It wasn't a good way of the health service to tell you, was it?
It wasn't, in a sense, but it was. I mean, I can't. Torrevieja Hospital, the state hospital, have been amazing, because from when my first mammogram till when I found out and I was going for my surgery, it was 8 weeks in total.
Brilliant, isn't it?
So I'd had like scans, consultancy. They'd sent me to the private hospital, the Chiron, to get like the dye put in my body the day before my operation. Literally in 8 weeks, everything was done.
So I think the Spanish health system is good like that, isn't it? I mean, it has its faults, like everyone does. But when it's something serious, they get themselves into gear, don't they?
Yeah, and I mean, I've heard like obviously bad reports about the Chiron, Torrevieja Hospital, but for me, I couldn't fault them.
No.
And I really can't. They were so good. I mean, I was very, very lucky. I've been very blessed. I was very lucky that it was caught early. If I had not rang the hospital and said, "Listen, I've missed my appointment, and can I come another time?" If I'd just thrown that letter away, it'd be a different story next year. Because my lump, when they found it, was really small. It was only 7.2 millimeters. By the time I had the operation, it had grown to 8 millimeters. So it was grown,
really.
But it was only, very lucky.
So Pete, how were you actually told that, listen, Pete, you've got prostate cancer? Did someone sort of say that to you, or?
Yeah.
Is it in levels as well? Is it sort of, like A, B, C, whatever?
There are stages. They stage it, and they give you something called a Gleason score. Okay. And the Gleason score runs, well, I think it's changed now, but it used to be between 1 and 9. And my Gleason score was a 9.
I'm taking it 9 is at the bad end.
Yes, 9 is the bad end. So I went back for the results of the biopsies and saw a urologist. And he said, I'm sorry to tell you, but you've got prostate cancer, and we think it's quite aggressive. And they basically gave me 2 options. They said, you can have radiotherapy or you can have your prostate removed. And there was no question for me. I opted to have my prostate removed. So I was referred to one of the top urologists who deals with prostate cancer in the country.
So, Pete, I'm sorry to just...
Chris.
I only want to do this so that I don't miss anything, because
right.
I will. How did you feel when you were told that? I mean, were you expecting it?
I was in a way, but to be honest, I cried, because it's devastating news.
Of course, yeah.
You've got cancer, and the immediate thought is, that's it, I'm going to die. And I was 61 then, and I thought, well, 61, I'm too young to die. I don't want to die. And I literally cried.
Yeah, I understand it, because it's just that sort of horrible shock, I guess.
Yeah. But somebody said to me afterwards, a friend of mine, okay, you've had the diagnosis, but the main thing that you've got to do now is be positive. don't be negative about it in any way, shape, or form. Always be positive. And I think if you've got that positive mental attitude, it goes a long way to helping you through it.
Yeah,
whatever you've got to face.
I'm certain it does. I think that's in life in general, isn't it? You know, if you
Absolutely.
can have that sort of attitude. Joe, what sort of options did you have? I mean, did you have it? Well, I know that you did, but can you tell us what sort of options they gave you at that stage?
No, I mean because mine was only small. Obviously, they just said I wouldn't need a mastectomy because it's not big enough to be to have the mastectomy. So they said at the very beginning I would have to have radiotherapy plus hormone therapy tablets for 5 years because my breast cancer is a hormonal cancer. So mine's called luminal A.
So what is that? What's a hormonal cancer?
It's all to do with my hormones. It's all to do with too much estrogen in
Too
my
much
body.
estrogen. So you know when you're on your hormone treatments, they give you testosterone or something?
Well, no, I'm not on anything yet because my a sample of my tumour got sent away to Holland. And it came back because there's like in your cells they split it into different categories, so there's like A, B and C. So the cells in my tumor, there was some in A, but there was one bad cell between A and B. So now it's been set. I'm still waiting for the results because it's had to be sent back off again because they're doing a test to see if I'm at high risk of the breast cancer coming back.
Yeah.
So if I'm at the risk of the breast cancer coming back, I have to have chemotherapy. So it was 2 weeks ago when it got sent away. So I'm hoping this week I'll have my results back of.
Yeah. Because we spoke about it, didn't we, at the time? But honestly, and I'm not just saying this, I was surprised from day one when I was talking to you how controlled you were about it, you know. Now, inside, you might have been screaming, you know, but and you probably was. But you know, you came across as being very brave, you know, and I admired you for that. I think you were brilliant. And how quickly you want to come back to us, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah, but it's like Chris, you know, it's like Chris saying he cried. I came out of that room after the nurse told me, and my daughter was there, my husband was there, and my daughter's like, "So, hi, Mama. So, everything okay?" And I was like, "No." And then I was crying. And then in your head, it's like, "Well, why me? Why have I got it?" You know, and it's hard to process. But then it's like, well, hang on, like Chris said, I'm not ready to die. I've got too many things to do. I've got a daughter of 16. You know, I want to see her grow up. And this is not gonna get me. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna continue life with it. You know, I'm gonna make sure it's positive. And I think I've had so much support from like family and friends and even customers from the bar that it's made you sort of like, yeah, and they're saying, right, you can do this. And I'm, yeah, I know, I can do it. I can do it.
Yeah, definitely. And Chris, did you sort of have the same approach to it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you married, Chris? I presume you are.
I live with a partner, yeah.
Yeah.
Live with a partner.
So you had some support?
Oh, yeah, I had great support from her, yeah. And the family, of course. And it sort of becomes surreal, really, because you've been told you've got cancer and you're not sure what you should be doing. You know, do you carry on as normal or do you mope around? And again, it comes back to being positive, having a positive mental attitude towards it.
What was the health service like with you, Chris, in the UK?
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. The guy who I was under at the QE, he was absolutely fantastic. When I went to see him from the referral, he was so laid back. He said, "Oh yeah, you've got this. It's no big problem. We'll just whip your prostate out. You might have to have a bit of radiotherapy, but we'll see." And he was, you know, it wasn't. You've got cancer and you've got to do this. It was really laid back.
And that would make you more relaxed, I guess, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
You know, like phew, he's not taking it seriously. So, it can't be that
Yeah.
bad. No, that
And
sort of thing.
he said I think they'd got 28 days to actually do something. From the date I saw him, they'd actually got 28 days. And I was a bit worried because I've got a holiday booked. And I said, well, I'm going
Come
on
on,
holiday.
Chris.
I said, I've got a holiday booked. Do I need to cancel it? He said, where are you going? I said, oh, I'm going to Corfu. No, he said, don't cancel it. How long are you going for? 2 weeks? I said, yeah. Okay, he said, we'll sort you out when you come back after 2 weeks. And whilst I was away, he'd said that they would post any information through the post to my home address because I'd got to have a bone scan and I'd also got to have an MRI scan. And those appointments came through, and my stepson picked up the letters and mailed them to me in Corfu. And I remember we actually landed back in the UK at something like midnight on this particular night. And I'd got to be at the QE for 8 o'clock that morning to have a bone scan.
What are the bone
And
scans for, Chris?
because they need to check whether it has gone into your bones.
Okay. It's
and
different in prostate, isn't it?
Yeah. And well, I'm not so sure because my partner has been diagnosed with breast cancer. Very similar to what Joe was saying. It was in a node under her arm, and she had the node removed. But when they came to remove the one that they'd identified was cancerous, they found 9 others. And we've been through a journey with her where they found that the breast cancer has metastasized into her spine. So that's actually gone to her bones as well. So it can do that.
Well,
But
she's all right,
overall,
and give her our luck, won't you?
will do, yeah. But the treatment at the QE has been first class, absolutely first class. Even better because they put me into the Priory private hospital in Birmingham as an NHS patient.
Yeah.
So it was.
They do that in Spain. It's like Joe was saying.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know the hospitals because obviously you don't live here. But Torrevieja is like a state hospital, and
Right.
Quirón is a private hospital.
Right.
So Torrevieja then sort of referred Joe to Quirón. But it's covered by the state, isn't it, Joe?
That's right.
That it's our health system. So
Yeah.
it seems to me that both health systems have been really bang on with this,
Yeah, and they continue to be, Steve, because I've had 6 monthly checkups for the past 8 years, just to keep an eye on me to make sure things are progressing.
Yeah, and you're okay, yeah.
I am. Yeah, I did. Even though I'd had the prostate removed, I then had to have radiotherapy, a course of radiotherapy, which was 34 sessions every day for 34 days.
Jesus.
And that was fine. But even after that, there was still small levels of PSA in my bloodstream, which indicated that there were still cancer cells. And those levels have gradually risen, only by minute amounts, until they got to a level where they said, right, we're going to do another scan. So I had to go and have a scan where they call it nuclear medicine, and they basically inject you with a radioactive material.
That's what you had, Joe, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that I think that attaches to any cancerous cells. And they found that I'd got 2 lymph nodes in my back that had got cancer cells in, one of which was rather aggressive. And I said, well, why can't you remove them? And it was because they were in such a position in my back, they couldn't get at them. So I had 3 sessions of radiotherapy because over the years, since I was first diagnosed and had my first sessions of radiotherapy, there's been such an advancement in radiotherapy treatment. I only had to have 3 sessions, which was actually targeted. So they did while they're doing the radiotherapy, they're still actually scanning you to make sure that they've got the actual target that they need to hit.
That's amazing, isn't it? Because
It's
probably
unbelievable.
that original 30-odd sessions might have only been 5 or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. So while they're scanning, as I say, while it's scanning, it's actually targeted where they need to apply the radiotherapy. And I had that, and then I was on hormone tablets for 6 months. And I just had the results of following that treatment last Thursday, and I've got no PSA levels at all now.
Boom.
So, yeah.
That's great.
Fantastic.
Beck, do you know anyone, family or friends or anyone like that that's had breast cancer or prostate?
Not breast or prostate. My granddad died of bone cancer.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, not that.
And I think that's always the threat as well, isn't it? Is if it gets into your bones, I think then it becomes a bit scary, doesn't it? I don't know. I don't know why. Like, is the prognosis worse if it gets into your bones? I mean, have you got any chance of, I'd say chance of survival? I would guess you have, but I mean,
yeah. What from what I can remember, with my granddad, pretty much once it's hit bones, and because you've obviously got your bone marrow and things like that, and it's attacking your bone marrow, it's the prognosis isn't that good.
Yeah, because that's where like red blood cells are manufactured, isn't it? And so it's sort of, I guess, gets into your bloodstream,
Yeah.
So Joe, when I know like you're still like progressing with your treatment, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, what's the next stage for you now? Because I know that you can do some exercise with me now, can't you?
I mean, I get tired easily, and if I lift too much still, that's why we've got to go really slow. And that's why I said to you about coming back next week to do the body pump. But it just aches, like literally, because obviously my lump was in my breast, but they took lymph nodes out because while they were there, they wanted to check the lymph nodes. But where the scar is of the lymph nodes, it's still obviously healing inside. And in my brain, I'm like, oh, I'm great. And then I do too much. And then I go, oh, so tired, and it aches and whatever. Again, it's just when I went to see the consultant the last time, and she said to me, you have to start getting your life back to normal now. And just do things little by little, even getting in the car and driving and steer, like, turn the steering wheel was so hard work. And especially because we drive on the left side, and I'm using this side, the left side. Again, because of the bar, it's my business. I have to be there, and I feel like I've got to do stuff. That's how I am. But then I do suffer. But I think it's just, again, it's little by little. And because I'm not a person who just sits, I need to do things. It's so frustrating sometimes. And it was frustrating at the thing. It was like, hang on, I can't do this. I can't do that. Why can't I do this? I can lift that. And like my dog, he's not well. And I have to lift him up, and I couldn't lift him up. I've only just started lifting him up now in my arms because I couldn't do it.
Joe, did the hospital give you any physiotherapy exercises following your operation?
Yeah, they give you exercises. You go to see the nurse afterwards. On the day of my operation, they told me what to do. And then the week after, I went to see the nurse, and she said, right, okay, make sure and it was just basically you have to like walk your arm up the wall. And you do that like 3 times a day. And then obviously I couldn't even put my arm here. It doesn't, but now obviously you had to, it's so hard because you think your scar's going to rip open because you can feel the stretching. And that's all it was.
I don't think you could do that before, could you?
No. Well, especially not with the weight in my arm, in my hand. But that was it. It was just, you had to just keep doing this. And this is why I said to the consultant, can I not just go back to body pump and just use this arm? And she was like, no, because obviously using this arm, you're going right across your chest, and you're still pulling on the left side.
And we couldn't. The thing I asked you, wasn't it? You know, had you been cleared by your GP to come back to us? Because you know, we have to have that clearance when you've had that sort of thing. So with your what medications are you on now?
Not at the moment. I'm just, as I said, I'm still waiting for whether I'm waiting to hear whether I'm going to go for chemotherapy. Because if the breast cancer is going to return, I've got to have the chemotherapy, and if it's not going to return, I'll have radiotherapy and the hormone therapy tablets for 5 years.
It's
but
been it's been
Mm-hmm.
a real whirlwind with you, hasn't it? It's happened so well. It seems to have happened so quickly. It was like
end of August.
Crazy.
Yeah, end of August when I was diagnosed, and then I had the operation on the 21st September.
That's fantastic, really. I mean, you know, it's an awful lot to cope with in such as, you know, for you personally.
Yeah.
But you know, that's a real compliment to the health service, because to get that through that quickly, you know, shows they're doing something right, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can't fault them. I can't fault them whatsoever. Yeah. They've been amazing. Yeah. But like Chris, it's like Chris saying about going on holiday. You know, when I went to I went to the oncologist, and she was saying about either until I find out about the chemotherapy or the radiotherapy. I just said to her, well, listen, I'm going away twice in December. I'm not cancelling it. You know, I need to go on this because obviously I'm going back to my hometown, Liverpool, and then me and my husband are going to Holland. And it's like, I need to go away. And she was like, that's fine. She said, if you have the radiotherapy, if you're going to have the radiotherapy, we'll wait till you come back. And if you have the chemotherapy, it's one session every 3 weeks. But then I read that if you're having chemotherapy or radiotherapy, apparently you're not supposed to fly.
Well, I don't know.
So
now don't be Googling it. You know what's going to happen if you do that. Seriously, I want to go anywhere near Google, right? Just listen to what your consultant tells you, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Promise, Joe.
Definitely.
No Googling. So, Chris, it's so different, isn't it? Breast cancer and prostate, because it seems that breast cancer, I don't know whether this is the right term or whether it's right or not, like a bigger thing, you know, because there's more options for it to go wrong with breast cancer. Is that right?
I think that's a fair assumption to make.
It just seems to me like that a prostate is a prostate and you can take it out. Whereas, or is that wrong, Chris?
I wouldn't say it's totally wrong, but there are some effects of having your prostate out. It does affect your life, and as a result of the operation, there are instances where it can leave people incontinent and stuff like that.
Okay.
Because of the area that they're working in, and obviously there's nerves and blood vessels and everything. It can, for example, my brother, he had his prostate removed and he's been incontinent ever since he had the operation, which is 9 years ago.
It's only a case of them just touching the nerve, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know that, you know. So that surgery is so delicate, and the nerves are so small, but just simply touching a nerve can cause that incontinence, you know.
Yeah.
So it shows you the skill of the surgeons, doesn't it? Really,
it does. Yeah,
that it doesn't happen very often.
That's right. You mentioned earlier, I think, when you were talking to Joe about the hormone therapy, what does it do? Produce testosterone. One of the reasons that they give you hormones for prostate cancer is that suspends the production of testosterone, because the cancer cells feed off the testosterone. That's what they grow. They grow.
So so they take away the testosterone. They don't give you estrogen or something.
No.
Okay. No. So is that the only side effect of of having testosterone, sort of negative testosterone?
There are a number of things. If you Google it,
Don't Google it, Chris.
But, I think this is probably the time when we might Google it, Chris.
Yeah, one of the, because I was on hormone therapy, one of the things that I had, which is quite common, is that my breasts started to grow, and that can be quite tender as well whilst you're on the hormone treatment. But other than that, I've had no other symptoms as a result of taking the hormones.
I was just interested in that, because obviously, hormone levels have got quite a bit to do with cancer, it would seem.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe, we was talking to you about the hormones earlier. So how did they actually change yours? Did they sort of bring your estrogen levels down or something?
No, they haven't done anything. Yeah, like I said,
yes, right.
Yeah, nothing's been done. I mean, it's all with your hormones. Like I said, it's called luminal A. It's because I'm in the perimenopause, and it's all to do with the menopause as well, because obviously your hormones are just going through the roof.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, a lot of women, when they're in the perimenopause and then the menopause, they go on a HRT. Now, I always said I wouldn't go on HRT because obviously you hear the scary stories of like years ago, it could cause breast cancer. Now, obviously, I've never had HRT and my hormones have still produced breast cancer. But obviously now, because I've had breast cancer, I can't even have HRT. So it's all, obviously, again, it's all connected, like with the perimenopause, menopause. I do a thing for menopause awareness, and now I'm doing this thing on breast cancer awareness, because it's all connected. Like my friend in the UK, my school friend, she was diagnosed with breast cancer last year. But hair lumps were really big, and she had to have a mastectomy on one breast and a reduction on the other. And hers was hormonal as well.
Yeah, I think with the mastectomies now, they do rebuild the breast, don't they?
Yeah,
so they give you cosmetic surgery afterwards. They didn't used to do that at one time, But obviously, the thing with breast reconstruction is so advanced now that it's possible to do that, which is absolutely brilliant, So Chris, just going back to you, sorry to keep jumping from one to the other.
No, that's okay.
But so, Chris, how is your life different without a prostate now? Or is it?
It isn't really. It isn't really. I mean,
not like you're missing it,
No, you don't miss it at all. No.
Yeah.
I mean, to be perfectly frank, the only thing that it can really affect is your sex life.
Okay.
Because obviously that was the purpose of the prostate, was to produce the fluid that it mixes with in the testicles to produce semen.
Yeah.
So it can affect that.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, it's I carry on as normal.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It is, and obviously, I think it's like you know, Joe, that I deal with cardiac rehabilitation, and I always say to people that are in cardiac rehabilitation that once you've survived some sort of event, so like with you two having cancer, you're in a very strong position because you're constantly monitored. Whereas a lot of people that have never experienced it, it's like with cardiac events. A lot of people I know for a fact are sitting on a time bomb and they just don't realise it. Now, once you've had a heart attack, you're constantly monitored. Or once you start to get angina, you're constantly monitored. Medications are monitored. We monitor people, and liaise with doctors and things. So for you guys, in a way, you're very protected now, aren't you?
Yeah, well, go on, Chris, sorry.
I was going to say, without the regular 6-month checkups that I've had for the last 8 years, if I hadn't had those, I wouldn't have known that I'd still got 2 cancerous lymph nodes in my back.
Of course, yeah.
And that could have spread, to a more important organ in the body without me knowing. So
Chris, if you, for instance, right, if you had missed one of those appointments,
yeah,
would they have come back to you again?
yeah,
They would. Because I'm just thinking to myself, and I know what blokes are like, because I'm one. You would probably like, no, but we're more likely to just, I can't be bothered to go now. I'm cured, I'm all right,
Yeah.
But I think
a little bit more sensible.
From your own point of view, you don't want to miss those appointments.
Of course not.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because obviously you are under their care, and they've put in place an option for you to be checked every 6 months. Why would you not want to go every 6 months to make sure that everything's all right?
Absolutely. So for anyone, for anyone that's watching this podcast and they've had a prostate removed or something, and they haven't been back for the checkups, or they haven't been notified that a checkup is required, or they've moved house and they've changed their address, it's really important that they get those checkups done, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Most
definitely.
Yeah, because it's dead easy to do something like move address, or like I did. I know loads of people over here that have moved from the UK to Spain, and they haven't even got a doctor here. Because what happens is, and Joe will tell you this, we have a lot of people that go under the radar, don't we, Joe?
Yeah, hell of a lot.
They come away from the UK. They can't get a doctor here because they're not in the system.
Yeah,
and particularly now because of Brexit, they can't be in the system. So they fly by night, if you like. And I deal with quite a few people, and I've made them aware of the situation that are in some sort of some difficult predicament that they might be in, and they have nowhere to go really, because they can't put the hand up in Spain and say help me, because they shouldn't be.
No.
So the only option for them is to go home. And it's one of those things. But once you're in the net, and you've got those two really good health services that Spain and the UK have got, you're pretty well protected, aren't you?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's like Chris saying, I mean, after my whatever treatment to get the chemo or the radiotherapy, it's like once that's been done, then I will be called every 6 months, and then I'll be called every year. And then it'll go to sort of every 2 years. In Spain, they will start calling you for a mammogram when you're 45. Now, the amount of people I've spoken to who I know are over 45, and I've said, have you been for your mammogram? No.
Have they been called for it, though? Have they been called for it?
No. And the thing, if they, again, are they in the system? Obviously, I can't pry into their business.
And they won't tell you, because you probably know this as well as I do, Joe, right? That when Brexit finally, was after, I think, 4 years finalised, and we had that date of the 1st of January 2020 or whatever it was, loads of people that I knew, and I don't know about you as well, suddenly decided, oh, you know what, we've had enough of Spain. We're
going back to the UK.
You go, oh, okay, was Brexit an issue? Oh, no, we've been paying our tax for the last 5 years. We just want to go home.
We've had enough of Spain.
Lots of people did that, didn't they?
Yeah.
And that's just basically because they weren't in the system and I couldn't stay.
But like you said, there's still a lot of people under the radar.
I think there is as well.
And I said that, I say to people, you have to, well, especially women, you have to go for your mammogram. And I know some people who have implants, and I say, you have to go for your mammogram. Well, I've got implants. It doesn't matter. They can still check.
Of course they can. I mean, bloody hell, they must be aware of that.
Yeah, because they go like right behind and everything else, it's, and I say, you have to go. Please just go, because you may not be as lucky as me.
Yeah. And I think, like with you now then, Chris, you're in a situation where it's just the checkups, isn't it?
Yeah, every 6 months I have a checkup. Yeah. And that's just a simple blood test, and those results go off. Somebody looks at them. I get a phone call from a specialist prostate cancer nurse. We have a chat, and he tells me the results of the blood test. So you're in 6 months,
Something I did want to just mention, because, and it isn't really something, well, it may be something you can answer, Chris, I don't know, is that, like a lot of blokes now don't like the finger test, for obvious reasons. But I've heard that the PSA blood test isn't that reliable.
No, it isn't. It isn't. It's an indicator more than anything else. But I think there's an organisation called Prostate Cancer UK who are quite active in funding some of the research and some of the treatments for prostate cancer. And I believe there's been advancements made now with certain types of scans that they reckon can pick up likelihood of prostate cancer.
So you don't have to have that dreaded bend over business.
No, but
honestly,
honestly, Steve, it's nothing. It's more embarrassment than anything else, I think.
I just go and get my blood test done now and again. And Joe will tell you in Spain, if you sneeze and go to the doctors, they test you. They do a full blood test, don't they? Every time
that's the Spanish for you, though. It's like a cough and a cold. Oh, quick, go doctors! You've got to get.
First thing, take half a gallon of blood, don't they?
Yeah.
I'm going to read something now from a friend of mine, Pete Bevins, who's a member of the group. And if you know Pete, Chris, do you?
No.
All right. So I'm just going to read this. This is what he was going to come on, but he couldn't make it. So he said back in 2009, his dad was dying of prostate cancer. So at the time, Pete was 49, and he read an article about how hereditary it was. You know, like you were saying. In fact, it's really similar to what happened to you. And it doubles your chances of getting it if it's in your family. So
that's correct.
Amazing. I didn't realise that.
That's correct.
So he thought, balls, I need to get it checked.
Yeah.
To use his words. So he went out for a PSA blood test and he got one. So his PSA, this is really interesting because it's so similar to yours. His PSA was slightly high, but not massively so. So the doctor told him it was fine, but I should have another one in 3 months' time, as it would be a problem if the PSA score was moving up. 12 weeks later, Pete goes and has another one, and his PSA had gone up. So he was referred to a urology specialist and sent for a biopsy. This is a very unpleasant procedure, apparently. I don't know. Did you have that?
Yeah.
Is it a really unpleasant procedure?
It's not very pleasant. It's not painful.
Yeah.
But it's embarrassment and not pleasant.
Of course, yeah. Okay.
Because instead of a finger, it's a piece of equipment that cuts a bit of your prostate away.
Chris, you don't realise how sensitive a person I am. I might be sleeping tonight now, you know that. So to get back to Pete, he had this procedure and he had to be done. So sure enough, it showed he'd got cancerous cells in his prostate, but he was lucky it was contained within the prostate. He then had a choice to go through a course of radiotherapy and then review it, or bite the bullet and go straight into surgery and get it removed. So he went for the surgery and he had it done, and he had it done 3 months later. After the surgery, the consultant analysed the prostate, he'd removed, and it was an aggressive form of cancer, so he'd been extremely lucky. 14 years on, and he's fit and healthy and supports the Blues.
Good lad.
And so the key lesson from that, he says, Pete, is that if he hadn't got himself checked out early, caught it early, for instance, he probably had died around 10 years ago. You know, he could go into more detail, but he doesn't think he really needs to, because that's all we need to know, I think, and he's right. But you know, so I think the really important thing with prostate, and it would seem the same as well, Joe, with breast cancer, is that we get an early diagnosis and don't be scared to go and have it done, because people are probably scared of getting a negative result. But you know what? Whether you have it checked or not, if there's a bad result for you there, then it's there. Anyway, you know.
Yeah. You know, it's like, as Chris said, it's like it can be embarrassing. But I think with probably more with women, because they're used to having a mammogram, it's like, okay, you know, it's not too bad because it's just one of them things. Whereas a man doesn't go through that all the time, you know, and things like that. and that probably is a bit more embarrassing for a man.
It is. It's
to
sort
go through that
you
test.
lose the dignity a bit, don't you? You know.
Yeah. Whereas when a woman has a baby, she loses her dignity anyway. So to just have a breast checked, it's and it's just so easy. I'm not saying it's easy. It's uncomfortable, but at the end of the day,
listen,
like me,
Beck's got to have this in the not too distant future, so don't be scaring her. All right.
No, it is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. I'm not going to say it's nice because it isn't nice. It is uncomfortable, but if they can diagnose it early, then it's worth it.
And Chris, we're lucky that we're men, aren't we? Really, mate.
In some ways, yeah. I
wouldn't want to be a woman, honestly.
No,
seriously,
no. I think the important thing, Steve, is that I think the girls have mentioned that ladies over a certain age are called for a mammogram to check. Currently, there is nothing to call a man for a PSA test.
That's crazy, though, isn't it?
Well, it's
Spain,
ridiculous.
for instance, I think it's the same in the UK. When you're over 50, you get called for a colon test. Well, they don't call you for it. They send you the testing equipment through the post.
That's right.
You know, you do what you got to do, drop it into the doctors, and then you get a letter a week later telling you positive or negative, don't they?
That's right. Yeah,
but
there's nothing. There's nothing like that for the PSA test. It's purely down to the individual making the effort to go and have that test.
Yeah, that's a loophole, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I know Prostate Cancer UK are fighting really hard to try and get men over the age of 50 should be called for a PSA test.
Definitely, I think the good outcome of this, obviously, is that both of you are in a position to do this podcast with us. Because had you not both of you been sensible enough to go down the route of having yourselves checked, then you probably might not be here.
Correct.
It'd be a different story.
Yeah, would be a different story. And we wouldn't be sort of having a bit of a banter about it and being able to find the funny side of it. But in all honesty, and I know both of you, really, really brave to come on and do this. I think so, because I know, Chris, it took you a bit of courage to come and do it, didn't it?
I was a bit nervous about doing it, but I thought, well, if I can speak about it and guys that watch the podcast, it might make them think, if they hadn't had a PSA test, it might make them think to go and have one, and that could save their life.
Yeah, and Joe, I mean, to be fair to Joe as well, I actually didn't ask Joe until about 9 o'clock last night, did I?
No.
But I sort of knew that she would. The only thing that I thought would stop Joe doing it was if she was working, because I knew that she would do it. And I think both of you are really brave to put yourselves in a position to do this. And it's also obviously to help other people, and it might be good for you to talk about it as well. I don't know, but I think it's a good thing. And the other aspect of this, in my opinion, is that we're going to have a lot of blokes watching this, more so than women. Although we have got a fair few women, that are in our group. Don't forget, you've got partners. So if your partner isn't having this done, give them a little nudge. Have you asked Ronald about having this done?
Yeah.
Has he had it done?
No, he's going though. He's going to make it.
Telling me better.
Listen, he knows.
All right.
He knows.
Okay. So it's a double-edged sword for us, because if it's blokes watching and you're thinking about having your prostate done, just give your wives a nudge and tell her what happened. Tell her what happened to Joe. And sometimes there are things hiding there that we don't expect to be hiding there. And you know what Joe said earlier, which sort of struck me, was it doesn't happen to you, does it, Joe? It doesn't happen to you.
You don't. I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke, and I'm always. I don't sit around.
You're a vegetarian.
I'm a vegetarian.
Vegetarian.
No, vegetarian.
Vegetarian.
And and I, like, my friend who was diagnosed, like I said, in the UK last year, and she said to me, when I said to her, I have been diagnosed and I can't understand, and I don't do this, I don't do this, I don't do this, I don't eat this, I'm pretty much active, And she said to me, Joanne, it does not dictate.
No. And the thing is, you know, that's been in your genetics since you've been born.
Well, you see, this is it. And what I don't understand, because my auntie had breast cancer, but it was on my dad's side. And when I asked the consultant, I said, okay, my auntie had breast cancer. And she said, no, that wouldn't count because she's not on your direct line. Yeah. She said, so it'd be like your mum or your sister or your gran. But none of them had breast cancer. And obviously now, Lily Grace, she's 16, and obviously when she's old enough, she will get tested because she's on my direct line.
I've said that about like the genetic identity is that I don't know if you. I'm going off on a bit of a tangent now, so I'll stop before probably Beck stops me in a minute. But the thing is here that you know they're talking about now in the not too distant future being able to do genetic checks on children that will actually tell you what their health history is going to be, and the possibilities of them developing different things, heart disease, cancers, you know, and it's an amazing thing, really. When I say the not too distant future, you know, it ain't going to be like in the next 20 years.
No.
But that's the way they see medicine going, and it is because they do lots and lots of genetic tests now, and the more they geneticize it, then the more precise it comes, or precise, not exact, but it's a precise way of sort of plotting what's going to happen to you in the future. So, for instance, if they thought, you know, that you had a really good chance of getting breast cancer, you probably have the opportunity of having a mastectomy. I know that happens now, but that's only through previous, you know, through genetic lineage, not through a test that tells you might get it. You know, it's fascinating stuff, isn't it? But listen, I better shut up, right? Because I could go on about this forever. I'm a bit of a nerd. So listen, Chris, thank you so much, mate, for being brave and coming on. You know, and we did have a few blokes come on that were willing to come and talk to us. And thanks to Pete Bevins as well for giving us his little bit about what happened to him. Joe, absolutely brilliant, you know, and at the last minute you come on for us and you came through, and it's sort of been great to get the female side of it as well, because prostate and breast cancer kill lots and lots of people.
Yeah.
And we don't want it to, you know. So I'd like to thank you both so much for coming on. You've been absolute heroes. And Beck, tell them how well they've done. Come on.
So both of you, honestly, you're so inspiring.
Thanks, Beck.
So inspiring.
Thank you.
It is inspiring, you know, and I think that's something positive that you can both take out of it, is because now you can go on and be a hero.
Yeah.
Well, I think
I'm going to see you very soon, aren't I, next week?
Yeah. Monday.
So I'm going to wipe that smile right off my face. And Chris, I'm no doubt I'll be arguing with you about football in the very near future.
Well, let's hope it's not arguing, Steve. But
no, we never argue in our group.
No.
Listen, both of you, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'll be speaking to you both soon.
Thanks, Steve.
Good luck, Chris, anyway.
Say bye, Beck.
Yeah, and you, Joe. Keep up the good work.
And you. Take
care, both.
Take care. Cheers, mate. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.